These 5 engines were so powerful, racing organizations didn't just limit them, they banned them completely. Not because they weren't impressive, but because they broke the balance of the sport. And once that happens, racing stops being racing. First, the V12. This wasn't just about having more cylinders. It was about how smooth and consistent the power was. While other engines struggled with traction and delivery, the V12 pushed power out perfectly, with no gaps, no hesitation. That meant faster acceleration, better stability, and a huge advantage in every situation. Drivers didn't even need to push as hard, the engine did the work for them. It became less about skill and more about who had the better machine. That's when regulators stepped in. It wasn't just fast, it was unfair. Then came the turbocharged monsters. At first, turbos were meant to improve efficiency, but engineers quickly realized they could push insane levels of boost. Power skyrocketed. These cars became absolute rockets, but there was a problem. Turbo lag. One moment the car felt normal, and the next, all the power hit at once. It wasn't smooth, it was violent. Mid-corner, that sudden surge could completely break traction. Even the best drivers in the world struggled to control it. The cars became unpredictable, and unpredictable at high speed means dangerous. That's when it crossed the line. Not just fast, unsafe. Next, the rotary engine. Completely different from traditional engines. No pistons, just a spinning rotor generating power smoothly at extremely high RPM. It was lightweight, compact, and incredibly consistent. In endurance racing, that consistency became a massive advantage. While other engines wore down, overheated, or failed, rotary engines just kept going. Lap after lap, hour after hour. Delivering the same performance, it didn't just compete, it dominated. And when one design dominates that hard, the competition disappears. So instead of letting it take over completely, it was restricted out of the game. Then you have the extreme high-power builds. These engines weren't designed with limits, they were built to push everything as far as possible. Massive pistons, insane compression, huge displacement. The kind of power they produced didn't just push the car forward. It pushed the entire machine to its breaking point. Chassis started to flex, components failed, and sometimes the engines themselves couldn't survive their own output. They shook violently, overheated, and in some cases, literally tore themselves apart. At racing speeds, that kind of failure isn't just mechanical, it's catastrophic. That's when the decision becomes simple. No matter how powerful it is, it's not worth the risk. And finally, the experimental engines. These were the ones that ignored convention completely. Engineers started rethinking everything: airflow, combustion, design. The result was engines that didn't just perform better, they created advantages no one else could match. Some manipulated airflow for huge power gains, others combined technologies in ways that made them nearly unstoppable. The problem wasn't just speed, it was dominance. If one concept becomes so effective that nothing else can compete, the sport loses its purpose. It stops being a competition and turns into a one-sided showcase. And that's exactly what racing organizations try to prevent. When you look at all 5, they all failed in a different way. The V12 was too smooth. The turbo engines were too aggressive. The rotary was too consistent. The high-power builds were too unstable. And the experimental engines were just too advanced. But they all had one thing in common: they broke the balance. Because racing isn't just about going as fast as possible. It's about keeping competition alive. The moment one engine removes that competition, it doesn't matter how incredible it is. It has to go. And that's why these engines weren't just remembered. They were banned. But here's the part most people don't see. Banning these engines didn't just stop them. It changed motorsport completely. Because when something gets banned, engineers don't stop, they adapt. After the V12 dominance, rules started targeting balance. Limits on engine size, cylinders, and fuel weren't random. They were designed to stop one engine from taking over again. Racing shifted from pure power to controlled performance. Then after the turbo chaos, engineers focused on control instead of raw boost. Better throttle response, smoother delivery, more predictable power. Because speed means nothing if drivers can't control it. That's why modern engines feel sharper, they're still fast, just usable. The rotary engine forced a different change. It proved that a completely unique design could dominate if left unchecked. So racing organizations started balancing different engine types more carefully. Not to slow them down, but to keep competition alive. The extreme high-power builds taught an even harder lesson.